You know, there's a lot of YouTube trolls out there, and I had one in particular that decided to rant on about my SV650 that's here behind me, with the GSXR front suspension that I put on there, because I lacked to install the beauty ring. I didn't have one at the time that was in good enough shape, so I didn't install it. And was it really necessary? You know, it really isn't. It just protects the top seal from getting dirt on it, but the seal itself, of course, keeps the dirt out. But it does keep the UV rays off of it, so it stops the rubber from rotting. So I will put it on, but it was not of utmost importance to put it on then. But nonetheless, we're going to do it today. You need to remove the top tree to get that out. It's a really easy job, as I explained to the troll, but the troll decided he's going to put up a fight anyway. But what you need to do is you need to remove the top nut, you need to remove the two bolts from here, and then you go and you remove the bolt from the clip-on on each side under here. Now, I've already removed those bolts. I've already loosened this nut, and I've already loosened those bolts as well. So the top tree is ready to pull on off. Now, before we pull that off, we want to go and cover the tank. Anytime you're working close to the gas tank, you want to put cover over it to stop it from getting banged up, dented, or scratched. Pull this nut out, take off the washer, got them, put them in a safe place, and start removing that top tree. There it is. Alright, underneath we've got the crown nuts. These crown nuts is what holds your bearings together. This is what keeps them all tight. These two crown nuts are tightened up against each other, and we'll get into the torquing of that afterwards. But what we've got here is we've got the beauty ring that's going to go underneath those crown nuts. So the first thing we're going to do to remove those crown nuts is use the crown nut socket that I created. It's ugly as hell, but it certainly does the trick. It's a 32mm socket that I bought from Harbor Freight on sale for about $4, and I just simply hit it with a grinder until it fits into the castle nuts that are on there. So we're going to put that right on the top there, and we're going to remove those nuts. Here it is. There's my castle nut tool with the castle nut in it. Works real good. Alright, we've got both the castle nuts off the top of the triple tree steering stem. So we're going to put the beauty ring on next, and I cleaned it up as best that I could get it. It's got some marks in the middle, but I'm not too worried about that. We're going to clean up this area a little bit too before we put that on, then we're just going to simply drop it right in place. Okay, now that we've got the beauty ring in place, we're going to go ahead and put the first castle nut right back on the top of the steering stem here. Screw this one on down, and this has to be tightened to a specific torque specification. Once again, using my castle nut socket that I've got here, and a torque wrench. As per Suzuki, for my SRAD triple trees that I've got on here, the bottom castle nut has to be tightened to 32.5 foot-pounds. So there's your 32.5 foot-pounds right there. So we're going to go ahead and snug that right on up, and then what you need to do next is you need to loosen it about a quarter to a half a turn, and it goes by feel. You see how the bearings feel after that. And then we'll tighten up the top castle nut next. Next goes on the washer with the little keyway, and you line that up with the notch that's in the steering stem. Then the top castle nut goes on. And this one's going to get tightened up to 58 foot-pounds. 58 foot-pounds is a lot of force, so this is going to get turned quite a bit, and you're going to watch me struggle a little bit. There it is, 58 foot-pounds. Next that goes on is the top triple tree. Somebody asked me how to change your ignition out on the SV650. And real simply, when your top tree is off just like this, you remove those two bolts that you see down below there with the star heads. These are called Torx bolts. And you want to make sure you get the specific tool to remove those, otherwise it's a real pain in the butt. And I believe those are the only place on this bike that the Torx bolts are actually used. And probably the only place on, I would say, any bike. But that's the security bolts, that's what keeps them locked down, to make it a lot more difficult for the bike to get stolen. Anyway, top tree's ready to go back down. Just simply line it up with the three legs. All right. Top tree is now in place. We've got a couple nuts and bolts to tighten back up. We've got the washer that goes here on the steering stem, and we've got the top nut that holds that all down. Okay, we're going to start by torquing this one down, so that way everything in the top tree is nice and tight. And then we're going to start snugging up the 2 bolts here, and we're going to put the bolts back under through the clip-ons up through the top tree. Okay, this top nut gets tightened down to 65 foot-pounds, so we've got the torque wrench set up for that. Got 65 foot-pounds dialed in on the indicator, and then we're going to start torquing this sucker down. Okay, we're tightening down to 65 foot-pounds up here on the top. We're tightening up these 2 bolts next, and then we're going to install the little bolts that go up underneath the clip-ons. Once those are in, we're going to take it out for a test ride and make sure the thing handles properly, that there isn't any bearing shake, there isn't any wobble, or that it isn't too tight. And there it is. Our bolts are back in for the clip-ons to the top triple tree. The bike is now ready for a test ride.